Hey guys, what's up? This is Coach Max from Team Max Fit, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Coach Max. Right, so this is where we address all the questions that our followers send us, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, so forth and so forth. All our followers and also some of our clients' questions and so on. The questions that we get, we address them over here. So when you see me looking up, there's a little board at the back, so I'm always just looking at the questions over there. Righty, so today we're going to discuss PRs and PBs, what they are. Going to discuss progression that is not linear, and the main question of the day will be heavyweight versus lightweight. Right, that's always a big subject. Always one that people want to know about. Should I train heavy? Should I train light? But I'll leave that for the end of the video. And while I'm taking a sip of my coffee, you guys can go click the subscribe button, click a like there, and then we will get started. Okay, so I hope you click that subscribe button. If this is not directly on YouTube, then go to YouTube and subscribe to the Max Fit channel. Righty, so let's start at what is PR and PB. So, just to get my facts straight here, PR is an American and the rest of the world, I think, and PB is something that they say in England, UK. So it's basically essentially the same thing. Your personal record, PR, and your personal best. So it's basically the same thing. To go a little bit into detail with that, it's a lot of people say that my PR is 1 rep bench press 100 kgs, but that's not necessarily what it needs to be. It could be, you could have a 1 rep PR, you could have a 3 rep PR, you can have an 8 rep PR. So if you were benching 80 kgs for 8 reps this week, and next week you bench 80 kgs for 9 reps, that's an extra rep, so that's a PR, that's a PB. So yeah, essentially both of them are the same. Somebody asked them the difference between the PR, or asked what is a PR, what is a PB. So yeah, that's basically it. The one is UK and the one is like America or the rest of the world, but we can use whichever one you want. Righty, so to give reference, I posted a video where I explained, I think it was on my Facebook. Again, not totally sure, but I think most of these questions come from Facebook. And on this video, I'm bench pressing 150 kgs for 8 reps for a couple of sets. But the caption on this is that how frustrated I was, how upset I was, because my numbers for that day was supposed to be something like 170. And I was going to do less reps and stuff, but I was looking to get the 170. But I could feel building up to 170. By the time when I got close to 170, then I could feel I'm not going to get that 170 the way that I wanted. So I was quite frustrated and I had to go down. So for some people this might seem like a lot of reps, like wow, 150 for 8. For me, that is not, like, I always challenge myself. I don't challenge against what other people are doing, I challenge myself. So 150 kgs for 8 reps for me is not a wow factor. It is literally me moving backwards. So this is what I was trying to show everybody, that also I also have down days. It's not everything up. And that's another thing that we're going to get to now. One of my friends who actually commented there, one of my bodybuilding buddies, Neil, speaking about the proverbial staircase. And that's what people think it is. Like in success, in life, in everything, nothing is a staircase, but people think it's a staircase. So if you think of the staircase analogy, because I was asked to do this as well. So the staircase analogy would be a stair and a stair and a stair and a stair and a stair. And let's say this is my, where the golden cup is. Let's say this is my goal, and then people think you're going to take a step and 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 a step, and you're eventually going to get there. And that's literally not how it works. And he goes on to talk about this. I always say progression is not a linear process. So it's not one, you don't just go from here to there. It's not how it works. It's a lot of little dips and stuff. But Neil said a very nice thing there, like when I was talking about the stairs, we're speaking about how the step and the step, and then you get like a landing strip. So like if you imagine a plane, there's a landing strip. So then you step, and then there's a landing strip, because this is where you're going to plateau. And this is going to be super frustrating. It's going to be really, really frustrating when nothing is changing. You're trying things, but you're just stuck there, because now you've got to break through a wall. But this is a whole other video that I can make, actually, like going through a progressive overload and how you've got to eat, train, all of these things just to break through, to get onto that next step again, because you are going to plateau at some point in your life, and this is where you're going to have to be consistent. So that covers the proverbial staircase. Like I said, progression is not a linear process. Now let's get to some of Kuda's questions. One of the guys that are always commenting there, really appreciate it. Gives me a lot of content, lots of things to reply to. So Kuda says, you've seen people on the Max Ep pages do a lot of 2 or 3 reps. What's the goal of this 1 to 3 reps? So the main goal here when you're doing 1 to 3 reps is not muscle building. So a lot of people will see that I've got a lot of bodybuilders in my team. I coach a lot of bodybuilders, and then they assume everything they would do, which is kind of correct, but I'll get to that. But everybody assumes everything they would do is to build muscle or for bodybuilding or whatever. Yeah, the best way is to think everybody thinks that everything is to build muscle. So it comes back to that again, the proverbial staircase. So in order to keep climbing, you've got to do stuff like accessory lifts. You've got to do things out of the ordinary. If you are continuously doing 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, which is said 8 to 12 reps is said to be the best way to build muscle. If you continue to do that, you're going to get stuck badly. So basically this goal of the 1 to 3 reps is to push your strength up. So when your strength goes up, it doesn't directly transfer to extra muscle. But I hope you guys get this one out. It doesn't directly transfer over to muscle. But again, let's say you can do 100 kgs for 8 reps. But now you start doing 1 to 3 reps to get stronger. You can eventually do 110 kgs for 8 reps. You can do eventually 120 kgs for 8 reps. You can eventually do 130 kgs for 8 reps. So forth and so forth. So it translates over to these bigger reps as well. And then that's where you're going to be building the muscle. So pushing a weight for 1 to 3 reps, don't expect muscle from that. To some point you can, but don't expect like muscle from that, because that is more of the CNS. And again, there's a lot of these things that makes this video very difficult to keep it short, because there's so much more detail. Like the CNS, the central nervous system, you can train that, and once you train that, like if you look at weightlifters or Olympic lifters, those people have trained their CNS, their central nervous system, so well, and that's what makes them so strong. But again, the goal of 1 to 3 reps is to gain strength, and then transferring that strength over to your little bit of higher reps, the ones that build more muscle. And then from there on, you'll be able to, because obviously if you can do higher reps with heavier weights, you're going to gain more muscle than higher weights with lower reps. That makes sense to you. Really hope that gets through to you. That's one that people don't always get in. Alright, then to move on, it's what's the scope and timeline of such a training regime? Okay, so that question, I'm not going to lie, I don't fully understand what you mean by the scope and timeline, but I'm going to answer it according to how I think. So, according to, or what we do at MaxFit, our timeline, we don't, some days you'll see us be doing like, say for example, recently people have seen me do 180 kgs for 1 rep or 2 reps. Then, a day like yesterday, you'll see me do something like 80, 85, 90 kgs for 50 reps. Then immediately after that, I do, say, 95 kgs for 40 reps. And immediately after that, I do 105 kgs for 30 reps. And my reps are ridiculously high, because it goes from 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And I do my sets like that. So then this one would be a higher rep day. So I believe that people should have heavy days or heavy weeks, however you want to put it. it's going to change from person to person. None of these things are cookie cut. None of these things are one-off answers that you can just give people. And that's what I'm always telling people. It's not like I can just tell you, yeah, this is going to work for you. It's all trial and error stuff. So yeah, some people are going to once a week do a heavy chest day, and then in that same week do a light or speed day or whatever. Other people are going to train 1 week heavy, and then the next week lighter, speed, however you want to see it. So the timeline that we use, I like to use 1 week on, 1 week off when it comes to strength. For now, sometimes I'll go 1 week on, 2 weeks off, so on. Because you got to remember, doing these heavy weights are going to be really straining on your joints, your vertebra, all of these things. So you also want to think of longevity. So you don't. Good example is Ronnie Coleman, who always trained heavy. It costed him at the end of the day. So you want to have a balance. Obviously you want to train heavy because heavy is going to build the muscle, heavy is going to build that CNS, heavy is going to put the base of it all there. But you also again want to look at the longevity. So yeah, have a balance between the two. However you're going to do it. I have my ways of doing things. I have my ways of putting my stuff together for my clients. And again, I treat my clients individual. When they get to this elite level of where we're actually going to look at strength and we're going to look at that, because it doesn't help you go, again, I guess you can, but for me personally, it doesn't help I go give my new clients do heavy bench and they never really have done bench, or they haven't had the experience with it, so they're not doing it properly yet, so they're going to end up injuring themselves. So this is advanced techniques. You got to also remember that you got to know how to bench properly. I've got the series going on about how to bench. I'm actually going to put a series up on how to squat. All of these things, you first got to learn the basics before going on to these advanced techniques. Anyways, I'm ranting on this. Yeah, let's just leave the timeline and scope there. So I would say basic, go 1 week strength and go 1 week lighter weights and hypertrophy and whatever you want there. My views on reps versus overload, and then with injuries and mental frustration. Okay, reps versus overload. You can overload. Let's just first get that statement right. Overload can be done on reps as well. So it's not just overload on weight. You don't just overload on packing on weight. You are also overloading if you're doing 100 kgs this week for 8 reps. Then you're doing it 100 kgs for 9 reps. Then you're doing 100 kgs for 10 reps. Then you're doing 100 kgs for 11 reps. 100 kgs for 12 reps. It's progressing. You are still going, and that is still overloading. You can also then your sets, you can also increase that. Again, I apologize my videos get this long. It's the questions that you guys ask that this is why I do these videos, because I tell everybody who messages me, who DMs me and what, there is not a simple answer to this thing. There's not one small answer. So anyways, yeah, that is overload. So let's just get that right. So I think what he was asking is reps versus low weights and reps versus high weight and low reps. So high weight versus heavy weight versus lightweight. Like I just said previously now, I would say both. Do heavy and do light. Because you're going to hit different systems. The body is filled with different systems, and I'm not going to get too much into that. Let's just think of it as chasing a pump 1 week or the 1 day, whatever you're going to do. But let's just say 1 week you'll do pump chasing, and you'll fill that muscle with blood. The blood has all the nutrients in, so all that protein, all that amino acids, all those healthy fats, all of those things, you're getting it into that muscle cell. You're pushing it in there for that week. Then the next week, you're not going to get that much of a pump when you're doing heavy weights, but your central nervous system, and you're bracing your ligaments, your joints, everything, you're making all of those things strong. So you got to look at it as one whole big structure, and you've got to touch on each part of the structure, because if you leave out certain parts of the structure, you're going to have an imbalanced body. And this is something that Max Ep03 is big on. We create very balanced bodies. Right, so that is me on reps versus heavyweight, and then with injuries and mental frustration. So let's start with injuries. If you continue to train, I tell my athletes this all the time. If you only are doing 1 to 3 reps every single day, every single week, I guarantee you by the 8th week at least, you're going to get an injury. Because your joints do not grow as fast as your muscles, and there's way too much pressure. I don't think the human body was made for single reps, maxing out every single time. That's not even the top powerlifters do that. You don't max out all the time, and this is what people don't understand. Like, especially when you're young, your body is resilient, and now you're doing this one rep. After a few years, your body's not that resilient anymore, and you start getting massive injuries and stuff. So if you do have injuries, I'd probably say go to the lighter range and increase your reps. You can, like I just explained, you can still overload on lighter weights. Okay, let's try and speed through this now. Mental frustration. Again, lighter weight is going to give you less mental frustration, and this is where I got frustrated in my video, because I was chasing some heavy weight. And getting to that heavy weights is you need so much mental focus. You need everything to be in place. You need to have eaten all your food for the day. You need to have drank all your water for the day. You need to have made sure that you have all the nutrition, everything in, so that you don't miss that lift. And sometimes with all of that, you can still miss that lift. So with mental frustration, I also tell people, rather go lighter. If you feel like, I like to warm up towards my heavy weights, so I'll do 7 or 10 or 15 warm-up sets to get there, and then feel where I'm at for the day. If you feel for that day you're not going to make these huge weights, rather back off, increase your reps, because it is definitely going to be mentally frustrating. Okay, and then at the end he states that there's a thin line between bodybuilding and weightlifting and the results thereof. Okay, so we'll end this off over here. Okay, thin line between bodybuilding and weightlifting, which is very true. Let me stand up and I get what he's saying, kind of explain. So bodybuilding curl would probably look something like this. So I would curl and I would contract my bicep. I'll curl, I'll contract my bicep. Whereas a lot of people, I see this at my gym all the time, is this. This is not a bicep curl, guys. This is not a bicep curl. I call this an everything curl. You're using your legs, using your back, your upper back, your lower back, your delts, your and. You can do this, but you're not going to be focusing on that muscle. So bodybuilding is building specific muscles, building them up, focusing on that. This is supposed to work on my bicep. This is supposed to work on my chest. This is supposed to work on my triceps. So if I start swinging and doing all these movements and things, I'm incorporating a lot of other movements. Yes, I'm still lifting weight, I'm still moving weight. So that's why we call it weight lifting. So there is a big difference between it. When I go into gym, I don't just look at people and say like, oh, that guy's training wrong. What is that person training for? And end it off with this statement. What is that person training for? So bodybuilding, I'd be wanting to focus. But if you are a strength athlete, if you are a rugby player or something, if you need to do this to get it up, by all means, do it. Because you're more focusing on being able to move a weight. So weight lifting. So being able to lift that weight, being able to move that weight. So sometimes that type of training will help. You're going to need it because it's going to make you stronger. But you are more injury prone in that. Right, guys. Another episode of Coffee with Coach Max completed. Hope you have got a lot of information from that. And please subscribe, share, like, everything. And share the love. Cheers.